All right, good evening, everybody. It's Jason with JR Custom Designs, and this is the Turn and Burn podcast, where we have Gary from AppleAir Systems from down in Australia that we're going to go ahead and kind of go over some of that stuff with him. So I'll let him introduce himself real quick. How you doing, Gary?
Hey Jason, I'm doing well. Gary Chapman, Managing Director at Apple Air Filtration Systems. Thanks for inviting me to the show.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I figured it was about time that we kind of do an introduction because we've got, and for anybody out there that's not aware, we're bringing in the Apple Air products to the U.S. as the U.S. distributor for Gary's parent company down there in Australia. So we're really pleased to do that. Our first shipment is actually going to be here in about a month, and that is something that I've been looking forward to for some time. But we've had some delays in shipping and things, so hopefully we'll get that under control. But I wanted to bring Gary on here. Gary, I wanted you on here to kind of get some information from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So if anybody wants to know, if you're listening from Australia, you can find out about AppleAir, appleair.com.au, and Gary would be a point of contact, and he can help with anything related to that. And then if you're in the U.S., this is our website, AppleAirUSA.com. So if you're looking for information about different products, things like that, this would be the place to find it. And also you can get a hold of me. Most people in the laser industry here in the U.S. at least know me for the Rotoboss and things like that. So I'm really easy to get a hold of. So if you have any questions about it, I'm happy to help. But again, I brought Gary on here because he is obviously the systems expert for these machines, because he's the one that helped develop them and bring them into the market as a whole. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Gary, and he can kind of give a little brief rundown of all the different stuff that AppleAir has to offer.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So I guess just to give you a little bit of history, we moved into this field. I used to sell laser engraving machinery for about 35 years into the Australian market, being Aon and GCC predominantly, along with other manufacturers' products, bespoke solutions, metal cutting, Ori, all of those sorts of machines. So that's kind of where I came from. Prior to that, I was in the air filtration game with a company called AppleAir, and that's sort of where my journey began, I guess. So we sold that business a couple of years back, and the laser supply business, and we kind of in our 1 year handover to the new owner, we were kind of having to think about what we might do for the next stage of our working careers. And during that 1 year process, we had a very good customer who became a very good friend, and he unfortunately developed a serious lung condition, and the only solution was a transplant. So being a good friend was quite concerning, but he had the transplant and he was good for about a year, and then rejection set in, and then that was unfortunately the end of my friend. So that inspired me to think, well, he had 4 laser machines. By choice, he didn't have any infiltration. He was on a rural property. He was just blowing it out the door. And I always wondered whether, air filtration should have been considered, because people think blowing it out the door is dealing with the problem, but in actual fact, it's not, because from a lot of people that have these machines tell us it ends up blowing back inside the house anyway, inside the workspace. So it got me thinking, how do we change this? How do we educate people? How do we get them to understand that, the laser atomizes the product, and you should not be breathing what the laser puts out. The impediment is always twofold: cost of the machine, the cost of the filters for the machine. So through a series of events, we came across a manufacturer who was actually in the process of developing ESP technology for laser filtration and other associated industries as well. And I said to my wife, Sandy, look, we
Hey,
can...
hey Gary, sorry to interrupt. Is there someone beating and banging in the background?
Yeah, the boat manufacturer next door, sorry. He makes
Oh,
boats,
oh,
like man makes them. Can you hear that, can you, on the...
oh, yeah. Yeah, pretty good. Nice. No, I think people can still hear you, but I was just curious if it was something that was in your control or not. But I guess not.
Yeah, no, he makes boats. So the same as the last time we did a video shoot here. Of all the
Yeah.
days, we had a gardening guy doing tree cutting next door all day on the day that we did the video shoot. It's just terrible time. So
Sorry, I didn't interrupt. Hope.
no, that's okay. So Sandy and I were thinking, how do we change this? How do we make a difference in that commercial workspace? How do we get people to understand that, you know, this is not healthy breathing what you produce? So cost being the biggest impediment, and the cost of the filters, because you can buy in Australia, our biggest competitor sells basically a two filter machine, a carbon block and a filter block. The machine costs more than a little bit more than my Freedom 1000 machine, and the cost of the filters per year is around 5,000 Australian dollars. And everybody tells me after a couple of weeks they just don't work well, the smell comes back, and that's what you get for your money. So we wanted to do something that did work very well, but wasn't going to cost a ton of money. Like some of the bigger European machines cost a lot of money, and then you pay a lot of money for the filters. So we developed the, so we partnered up with the company that make these machines, and we got some test machines in, and we refined them and developed them further, made a lot of changes, a lot of improvements, the wiring standards, the way that things work, the types of filters that are installed. There's a lot of math that goes into calculating, you know, pressure drops in pascals, how filters should work, capture rates. There's just a lot that goes into it. So we did that, and we were very happy with everything. So then we started on that journey and improving as we went along. But for the customer, so instead of spending 5,500 Aussie on a competitor's machine, which is basically two filters, they could buy a machine like our E1 for $4,750. So it was cheaper, had 28 filters in it, and the filter cost per year, instead of being $5,000, is around, with our new program, is around $800 a year. So now we've removed the barrier for people to buy a solution that works and to have a filter system that's not going to cost them a ton of money to maintain. And the whole point being is for the betterment of the health within the workspace, the work environment, for the staff and for the operator and for the families. Because a lot of people work from home, and they kids, we see it, they're running in the garage, wife comes out, the kids are running around, and they're all breathing what comes out of the laser. So
do you have a lot of people down there? I mean, like here, I know we've talked about this before, but I haven't really seen it or talked to you about too much. But the people down there, do a lot of people work out of sheds or garages and stuff from their homes?
They do. Yeah, there's a lot of lasers in Australia, and there's a lot of I guess cottage industry, homemakers, craft, hobby, those sorts of people, small format manufacturing. They're all working from home, and we see that a lot. And of course, what they're cutting needs to be dealt with. And I think for people, when we talk to people, they understand that they need to do something, and some of them are naive enough to think that you can blow it out the window and that it's fine when it's not. It happens more often than you might think. But I say to them that, you know, the cost of going to hospital and getting better from a disease is far higher than the cost of buying a filter to prevent getting a disease. Yeah. And when we do trade shows, really for us, it's not about selling at a trade show. It's about education. Our whole journey the reason we do this is about education and to help people. That's what we're about. And it's working. You know, we talk to people, they understand, they get it, and then they want to do something. And other people, you know, they got a story as well. They know somebody who's had like we have a whole hospital here dedicated to lung transplants because, you know, lung disease is relevant. So so we're really pleased, and we've had great success, phenomenal growth in the last 2 years that we've embarked on this. With you being part of that growth journey as well, sending product to you, and just people finding out about us, especially in the education sector, because they're saying the same thing, Gary. We're a school. The best price we could find is $5,000 Aussie a year for filters, and you're telling me we're at $800. Like, I'm on board. And the last school that we installed to, they've just bought a second machine because they're so happy with their first one. They're 6 months in for their second one. And they're telling other schools about it, so we're getting traction that way as well. But, you know, and that's nice, but for us, the important thing is that they're doing something, and that's because that's what our journey is.
Education. I think a lot of people don't realize, and myself included, is like a lot of things that we engrave or cut on a daily basis. You know, yes, we do vent it outside. I mean, here in the States, we don't filter a lot. And I think it's about to change because there are some regulations coming out, like we talked about before, where that's going to be more important or more. It's going to be looked at or scrutinized a little bit more. But what my point is even though we're cutting and engraving and we're exhausting things outside, we don't take into account the fine particulate and vapor that actually either escapes through the machine or through the ducting in some way as it's leaving the building. And then, of course, a lot of the problems here, which is why I had so much emphasis on making the signature series for us, Freedom 1000 for you. But the reason I had so much emphasis on making that machine the way it was made is because a lot of people here, particularly, especially since COVID, work out of their house, their garage, a spare bedroom, a little barn or shed. So they don't, and they're in neighborhoods, and that's the biggest thing. A lot of HOAs and stuff here. I don't know what if you guys have something similar to that, homeowners association kind of things, and they really crack down on that. And I've seen a lot of people get in trouble. You know, and a lot of people try to do this covertly because technically that kind of business is not supposed to be run out of your house in a lot of cases. So trying to be discreet about it and not letting the whole world know. And when you're pumping out all that smoke and everything, obviously you can't hide that.
No.
And then the neighbors get involved, the HOAs get involved, you know, things like that. So it's all around a bad deal. But the whole point of like the signature series, which is the top of the line one that we have, was to be able to vent back in the room for two reasons. One, health reasons, by getting the particulate and everything down. And as we've realized through a couple of your customers down there, that it actually improves the quality of the air in the room, as well as filtering the stuff from the laser. So that was quite shocking to come to that realization. That not only is it pumping it back into the room, but it's also cleaning the room, so it's getting better as it runs. And then here, especially in the southern parts of the U.S., a lot of humidity and heat, and then the north, the cold in the winter. So being able to vent back into the room safely, or as safe as we possibly could make it, is a big benefit, because typically you have the air exchange, because if you're running a laser, you're pumping air outside. Well, that air has to come from somewhere to replenish the room, and that's typically from outside. So humid, hot, cold, whatever the conditions kind of seep back in, and you can never keep it conditioned. So that was a big thing for here, and I think that's what sets us apart from anybody else, because the competitor filters, a lot of them, they don't have the ability to kind of vent back in the room to the degree that we do. I mean, obviously it's best to vent outside. I'm not going to deny that at all, but given the circumstances in situations that people are in, we do have a very safe solution for that, and I think that's going to be a game changer. And I guess from talking to you, it's been a pretty big hit down there. So that's great to hear as well. So
it's interesting, Jason. You touched on the point that you get leakage around the laser. I would challenge anyone to walk into any organisation garage where there's a laser set up and not smell laser contaminant, because you're right. As soon as you lift that lid, it's coming out of the work zone and it's coming into the breathing zone for people. So straight away you're up against it. I've got a dealer in Melbourne who sold a machine into Sydney, and I said, look, I'm going to Sydney for an exhibition. I'll take it down there and deliver it and install it. So we went down there and did that, and it was a young fellow, an electrician. He was working in he's got in a condo block. I think you guys call them condos, and he's in a triple garage, which he's boarded off two of the work car spaces. So he's got, I guess it's probably 8 meters by 5 meters, whatever that is in feet. And he said every time he used the laser, he's an electrician, he was just doing tags for switch boxes and stuff like that. Every time he used it, everybody would complain in the complex. And there were 0 windows and 0 doors in this thing. This is unbelievable. And so the dealer sold him a Freedom 1000 series machine, identical to yours, Australian version, of course. And so we went there, Sandy and I went there, and we were very surprised that he was operating in a zone with 0 fresh air coming in, and I mean 0. Just, there's no windows, no door. He had a wooden door on the partition that he kept closed so that there's no noise in the complex. And he's had his machine now for, I don't know, maybe 2 months, and he uses it almost every day, and he loves it. He said, Gary, there's no smell back in the room, nothing, and no more complaints from neighbours, and he's real happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking into things, and I actually want to get some other like competitors' filters, if you will, and do some comparisons and checks and things like that. I know a lot of people, the company out of Canada supplies a lot to the U.S., which I mean they're more expensive than ours. I mean in the U.S. right now the Signature Series is on sale with free shipping until January 15th. But even at that, I mean, there's at our full price, which is $6,500, they're still more expensive, and they don't have the ability. Like I just had a customer, or a potential customer, get a hold of me saying that she bought one of their small units, which is probably 2 or 3 times bigger than our F40D, which is the Galvo and small format laser filter, and it has, I think it's 3 or 4 filters in it, and those filters, like, she's replacing them monthly.
Yeah.
And you know, I told her that, you know, ours has 7 different filters.
That's great.
And I think a couple of them are washable, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure on that one. That one I'm not 100% familiar with. But nonetheless, I mean, for a full filter stack, you're looking at about almost $300 for a full filter stack replacement. Yeah. And I think they're good for about 6 months, you know, obviously depending on use. but and she's dropping over $1,000. I think it was about $1,000 every time she changed them, and she was changing them probably every month or two. And so I mean, and theirs is more expensive, quite a bit more expensive. It's like I think they start at about $2,000 for one of those, where ours is I think it's 1,700. And you know, and like you said, you know, in some cases we're not the cheapest. In most cases we are, but the more important thing is the replacement filter costs, things like that, is where we really kind of shine with everybody else. Just real quick, I wanted to put out, if anybody's listening, anybody's watching, please feel free to leave a comment either now during the live, or you can leave it later, and we'll get back to you and answer it as best we can when we see it. So don't hesitate to ask. We're here for you. We're just kind of going through and talking about things. So if you have specific questions, please feel free to ask. So so obviously the trip that I took down there in January this year was not intended for what it ended up being, but you know, obviously it was in a lot of ways probably inevitable, because I'm always looking to do new things, and I know from knowing you and working with you in the laser side of things with the rotaries and things before, I knew if you put your effort into it, it was probably something worthwhile. And then once I got down there and got to take a look at things, and the fact that you showed the initiative to make the changes that I wanted for what became the Freedom 1000 / Signature Series, I knew that you know, I wanted to do it. And plus, it's right up my alley. I'm pretty well involved in the laser community, have been for close to 10 years, and so it seemed like a good fit, and so I'm definitely looking forward for what's to come, and hopefully we can keep up with demand once we get them and people start using them. So
and that's when they'll see the value of them. I just want to circle back. You mentioned about the lady that's replacing filters every month. We had the same scenario here. A lady was she had the Australian-made filtration system, and she was spending roughly $900 every
6 weeks.
Every 6 weeks, she was spending 900 Australian dollars replacing the filters. And she rang me one day. I've known her for a long time through the other business, and she rang me one day and said, "Gary, I can't make a profit because the filters are killing me." But she had to. She's working from home, and they had new neighbours move in next to them, and that's when the problem started. The neighbours were complaining about smell. They were complaining about noise, so they put in the Australian filter system, which was fine, but it was killing them the cost. So they ended up ultimately, I took that out and then put in one of our solutions, and now she's spending around $800 a year. So $800 a year versus $900 every 6 weeks. She's now making profit. She's very happy. But, you know, Jason, I was going to bring up a point, especially to anyone that might be listening, is that, you know, you made a comment that, you know, we're more expensive. Well, I would challenge you on that and say, you know, if my competitor gave you a filter system for free, we're still cheaper, because a filter system isn't for a month or for a year. Minimum life of a well-built filter system is 10 years. But let's just be conservative and say, okay, 5 years. Okay, so my competitors at $5,000 a month for filters, I'm at let's say $1,000. So at the end of 5 years, you've spent $25,000 on that filter system that you got, say, for free because the competitor gave it to you. But you spent $5,000 over 5 years for hours. So is that more expensive? And the reality is no, it's not. So the competitor can give everybody free filters, because at the end of the day, let's be realistic. They make their money from the filters, not from the filter machine. And that's why this solution, being washable ESP technology, okay, will save customers a ton of money and give them the ability to increase their bottom line of profit while producing a better health outcome for the lowest possible cost on the market. There is nothing cheaper in terms of laser air filtration and UV solvent, etc. We have a whole bunch of solutions available, of course, but there is nothing that's at a lower cost that does the job properly than the technology that we have. So I think when we talk about the price of things, we need to look at the bigger picture. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why do people buy electric cars? Because they, the electricity costs for some people nothing. For a lot of people, it costs a little bit. But that's because they're looking at that bigger picture. Okay, well, I can buy the car, I can spend like extra money, whatever, and it's going to cost me to run. Just plug it in. So I think that's the bigger picture that people need to be aware of, is what's it going to cost me once I own this thing.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, when I referenced that they're more expensive, it's more along the lines of like the $300-400 units that you can get off wherever, or X-Tool, or anybody else that has the units for under $600. That's where we're more expensive. However, the cost of overall trying to think of the word.
The capital investment.
The longevity of the service life of that filter is going to be a lot cheaper at a whole. You're going to pay a little bit more up front. And I get that it's kind of hard to swallow, especially with our Signature Series being around $6,000. I mean, that is a good chunk of change. But one, you're taking care of your health, taking care of the environment. You're increasing your abilities, productivity, your comfort, the machine equipment. Because I mean, it all plays in. Most of the time, people have air-conditioned spaces or conditioned spaces for the machines, not necessarily the people. Because like condensation, moisture, things like that, that's a lot of what you have to keep in mind when you're running these pieces of equipment. And with the filter systems being able to vent back in the room, or limit the debris and dust and things like that, it plays a lot into the longevity of that. It's kind of like an added insurance policy, I guess you could say.
But most importantly,
oh yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there's new rules and regulations. Nothing's set in stone, but I did do some research when you had mentioned something about it in passing not too long ago. I looked into it, and there's actually some new environmental regulations coming out that are geared towards lasers, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and right now lasers are the squeaky wheel because it's such a huge part of what people are doing these days. So of course government's got to get involved and unfortunately but fortunately they are getting involved, and it is for the better, because a lot of this stuff, back to what I was talking about before, not realizing what you're cutting. Cutting a piece of wood inherently is not that bad on the surface, but depending on the types of wood, the carcinogens that might be in the wood, chemicals, if they're treated in any way, stains, sealers, things like that, there's a lot of stuff that plays into it. MDF is a big thing that people cut a lot of, and like the glue and stuff in there is somewhat toxic, and when you burn it, it obviously vaporizes, and that's what gets into your lungs. And like a lot of people get that itchy, scratchy feeling in the back of their throat. That's irritants, that's the VOCs, that's the chemical compounds. I mean, just anything that's in the air is what you're feeling. So being able to get rid of that down to the level that we are able to do with these machines is unreal.
I think there's actually two things to keep in mind here. What you said is true and very, very important. When you because when we engrave and when we cut, we're atomizing the particle, and the particle sizes are very small. So you're atomizing formaldehydes and glues that you find in your MDF, and and each manufacturer, each batch is different, so you never really know what's in it, except that it's just you shouldn't be breeding. But the other thing too is that you can take the cleanest product. You mentioned about timber. So you can take the cleanest product, the cleanest timber, and the problem is not the timber. The problem is the particle size of the timber, because when we do commercial air audits, we look at particulate size as well as compositions, gases that are present, et cetera, et cetera. So they're all the things we measure when we do audits. But in, say, like a home-based laser scenario, if you've got some, let's say laser ply, okay, laser ply is beautiful and grows really well, cuts like butter, you don't get black on the edge, you get clean. Looks like a very clean product and it's great, but it's still not something that you want to breathe in, because the thing that people may not be aware is that when we talk about particle size, the question is risk. So the American standard is the ASHRAE standard, and everything in the world is measured against what we call PM 2.5. So that's the particle size. It's about the 16th size of a human hair. So the problem with that particular particle, and the other particle is PM10, is that PM 2.5 can get past the lung when we breathe and into the bloodstream, and that's what does all the damage. So everything above that, it'll sit in your nostrils, it'll sit in your lung, and that's not a good outcome. But the deadly component is PM 2.5, which leads to brain clots, stroke, heart attack, all those things, because it gets into your blood. So it doesn't matter what you're cutting, if it's clean, if it's laser ply, like I said, acrylic, it's the size of the particulate, not the composition of the particulate, that is a risk factor. And then if you switch over to the outside manufactured material, as you mentioned, it's the composition of that manufactured material. So let's say we've got a spectrum from PM10 down to PM.03, and we're breathing that in, and we get some of the big stuff in our lung that's full of formaldehydes and blues, et cetera, even if it doesn't get into our bloodstream, it's still sitting there festering. And like I said, we have a whole hospital dedicated to lung transplant, and that can only be from what we breathe. So protection of what you breathe is very, very important, irrespective of what you're cutting. I cannot emphasize that enough. We did an audit recently, Jason, just on a side note. The Australian government changed the Welding Act here in January this year. So it's a little bit complicated, but the micrograms per cubic meter went from 5 to 1, and anyone within the surrounding area of the welder must now be protected. So it's quite a complex thing to deal with. And we were called out to a company here in November who said, Gary, we don't know where we stand. So do we comply with the Act or not? So we went out there, we took all our measurements, and, they didn't comply with anything. The meter was so far in the red for the measurements that we took that it was scary. They had 15 welders in 15 bays welding without mechanical extraction, which is the bare minimum the government require. And they said, well, we've got the roller doors open here, and we've got the windows open here, and we get a nice breeze come through. Yet, even though the air looked clean, even though they were welding, my particle meter told a completely different story. And what made it worse is when we went into the room, into the reception, Sandy and I could instantly smell mold in there, but nobody else in the office could. And we think that they've become so desensitized, mold, become so desensitized from working in that toxic environment for so long that they've lost that level of sensitivity. But the important thing here is that these people, they're a big company, big engineering company, they were not looking to shirk their responsibility. They were not looking to save money. They were not looking to do the wrong thing. They just, the problem is they'd done the same thing for so long that they knew no different, and it was the norm. And that is the road of education. And that's what we're really all about. It's trying to educate people that, you've done that the same way for 30 years, but, it's a problem. It's not the right way, and there are health risks, and we can help with that. So
we actually have a solution for that. Actually, two solutions, two major solutions, and then some subcategories of that solution.
Different
size units, but yeah. And we talked about them too. We'll probably look at getting some of those down the road as well, because we do have a lot of people that do that stuff around here, including myself. But so that'll be interesting to see once those are rolled out in their entirety.
Yeah,
but
we
also,
have the. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. There's a delay. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah, we have the new fume extraction systems. I think, and there are a lot of them out there. I think where we're a little different is again, it comes back to what I said earlier. Manufacturers make their money from the filters, right? So in order to avoid changing filters frequently, what they do is they have upgraded versions, and you can put cannons in which will extend the life of the filter to around 3 years. So, so that's a great thing. But our solution comes with the pulse cannons. Like, you don't get a choice. It's exactly what you're looking at on screen. So they come with the pulse cannons. There's no option for it. We can sell cheaper solutions without pulse cannons, but they don't work as effectively, and you're forever changing filters. And let's face it, people forget to change filters. So what happens is,
can you explain what the pulse cannons are for people that probably do not know?
You can see the 4 filters sitting in the top of the machine there. And so what happens is the extraction system filters everything through those filters, and they become blocked. So they become inefficient within a relatively short period of time. So what our solution does is we have a sub-tank in there, and we have a compressor that you saw sitting down the bottom there. And the compressor pressurizes the tank, and every 2 minutes, we have these cannons that sit inside the filters. That's them right there. So they sit on the inside of the filters, and they release all of that air energy very suddenly, and that shocks the filters, and all the debris drops down into, you can see there's a tray directly below the filters there, and all the debris drops into that. So your filters are now going to go 3 years instead of 3 months. So the problem with our competitors is that their price is the same as ours without the cannon, but when you add in their pulse cannons to be the same specification as ours, they're double the price. You see.
Yeah.
So it always comes back to the.
That's kind of like that Facebook post going around where they take a firecracker, set it on the air filter, and let it go off, and it kind of poof, and it kind of blows the debris out of it.
100%. That's what it is. And I've been
just the air version of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and look, I've been selling air pulse cannon technology for probably about 15 years with my big fiber cutters when I used to sell them, and they work very, very well. They really do the job. And when you look at what's in the bottom of the trundle after a month, like, it captures all that debris which would otherwise be sitting in your filters, and part of that would get through back into the air zone that you're breathing. Not a good outcome. So that's why pulse cannons are 100% the way to go.
So all of these, I mean, we're not going to carry all these in the States, at least not initially. We'll probably end up carrying the double just to cover our basis. Yeah. But do all of these have the pulse cannons in them?
All of them do, yeah. You don't get a choice. I put them into everything, and I even put the compressors on board, so you don't have to run compressed air to it, making it very versatile. And the right now the most popular one is the Master 24D. The dealers are selling that over and above everything else, and I guess most welding people or manufacturing people have more than one welder, so for a very small additional cost, they can be processing 2 areas, which A, makes them compliant, and B, gives them a really good efficiency.
Yeah. So actually, I'll hide this right now. There's a question I want to show here in a second, but so on the dual head unit, are those? Yeah. Can you independently open and close the inflow?
Yeah. So on the end of the hood,
they don't. Okay.
Yeah. So you can close.
What's the major difference between the 24 and the 415? Like, what's the difference between those?
Okay, so one is single phase and the other one is 3-phase.
Okay.
And that's the only difference. Yeah. So and that's why the price is the same. We actually pay more for the single phase fan, but I wanted to keep it the same because some people work from farms and they don't have 3-phase power. Some people work from large sheds at home, and again, they just don't have 3-phase power. So we're giving people an opportunity to get one in either 3-phase or single. The biggest benefit with 3-phase is the running costs are lower, the power consumption is lower on the 3-phase fan.
Yeah, but most people here don't have, well, unless they're in a big machine shop, they're probably not going to have 3-phase. I know we've got 3-phase power, but I don't even use it. I mean, I use all 3 legs, but I don't ever have anything hooked to it that's actually using all 3 phases. So okay, that makes sense. So yeah, that would probably be what we would carry here. Would be the 24D.
Yeah.
I got a question here from Joey. It says, "What's the smallest particle size it can filter out?" I'd be interested to see what particle size each product, wood, MDF, acrylic, etc., creates, and what is filtered with this machine. Now, Joey, are you talking about this welding machine, or are you talking about our laser filters? Because we have this was just kind of a side topic. The main thing we're dealing with in the U.S., at least to start, is here. I'll actually let me share our page since that's what most people are going to be looking at. So here's our page. So right now, like I said, we're not focusing, even though we have it on our site, we're not actually selling them yet. It's something new in general, and something we will be bringing to market eventually. So on here, so the air filtration, and that's what we're getting to now, and I'll let Gary kind of explain this a little bit better because I can stumble through it, but he knows exactly what it is. So there's different units here. We've got the F40D, which is the smallest unit, which is more for like your Galvo type use mostly, and small format stuff like K40, hence the nomenclature 40. So it's for much smaller lasers, galvos, and things like that. It's the cheapest, but it's also the least capable. And then you kind of go up from there as far as capabilities and things of that nature. But I'll let Gary kind of go over that stuff because he's actually done the research and particle sizes and VOCs and all that stuff. So I'll let him kind of touch on that. So Gary, if you could, just in a broad spectrum to kind of cover all of the E-stat versions, which is everything but the F40D, and then we can kind of touch on that.
Let me just find something for you.
And then I'll answer this real quick. How do the filters, Steve? How do the filters compare to charcoal filters like those in all air, which is about 30-pound filters? Well, our filters are charcoal filters as well. We do have charcoal filters in all of the larger machines. Those are recyclable, or not recyclable, but exchangeable. And I think what's the heaviest one we have? I think it's like 30 or 40 pounds, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Sorry, Jason. I just wanted to show you. So, yeah. So we were talking about the small machine. I did. I've got an image here. I don't know how to share the image on this.
You should be able to go to present.
Present. Let's have a look here. So there's there. I just want to share.
And then you just pick the screen that you want to share, and then I'll
present. What am I looking? Do I need to be logged in to do that, or? Okay. Oh, I can't find it. That's all right. Okay. Well, I've got
maybe, I don't know.
That's okay. So I've got a customer with a small machine. So we talked about efficiency, et cetera, et cetera. The So you'll remember, Jason, the Freedom 1000, the room was around 400 parts ppm at 2.5 microns, and and then Freedom was outputting 2. Okay, so we did some testing with spectrometer on our customers' premises, and what I got measured on the screen that I don't know how to share with you, but I'm happy to send it to you, is when we measured the output from her laser through that little the F40, the PM 2.5 count was actually only 224. So it's not 2, but it's on par with the bigger ones. I guess the point of difference there is that the filters have a limited life because it's not ESP technology. So I always say to people, look, if you don't have the budget for the machine that you really should be buying, then start with something like this, and at least you're doing something, and it will work for you. And sure, it's going to cost you $225 every 6 months, but at least you're capturing 90% of what you're producing, and instead of blowing it out the door. So even though they're small and they're not as efficient as big ones, those small units are still very, very good.
Yep.
To answer the question to Joey, the electrostatic plates will capture down to 0.1 micron. In terms of particle size, everything's a little bit different. It depends. When we measure acrylic, okay, we're actually measuring gas. That's what we're measuring. When we're measuring timber, a lot of timbers tend to be more in that sort of higher range. But again, we reference everything at PM 2.5 because that is the American national standard and the world standard that everybody measures particle by. So in terms of particle size for wood, MDF, acrylic, acrylic touched on as gas. So MDF particle size is important, but as per we talked about previous, the composition of the particle is as equally as important as well. So if we had 2 particle size entering our body, laser fly would be the better choice than MDF, for example, because of the composition of what MDF is. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, if you need any other information with that, Joey, see if you hit on what you're trying to get. If not, let us know and we'll address it further. We have another one here from Steve. Stephen, he's a doctor of acupuncture that uses moxa, burns similar to cigar smoke, and consequently use extractor to filter the smoke.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean we found, and I know you mentioned it to me before, is we've kind of inadvertently found new uses, such as like the UV and small or wide format printer filters work really good as just a whole room scrubber instead of having them hooked up straight to a machine. And then I think you told me about something about a week ago that you found another inadvertent use for the filter systems.
Yeah, for silica.
Kind of what Yep, there it is. Yep. Can you explain that a little bit?
So the fiber welder, the fume extraction machine that we're just looking at, has a specific type of filter in it. Okay, there's different classes of filters, LMH, and different variants within those range. So when we deal with something like silica, really what's important there is the filter more so than the machine. So if we look at our mobile welding filtration, we've got a customer, and he's a stonemason in Sydney, and he said, Gary, look, we have the big wet saw cutters that cut the slab for monuments and kitchens and things like that, but we also do a lot of chiseling. So when we chisel, there's a lot of dust and everything that's blown up. Some operators are not comfortable wearing a PAPA suit, so we're looking for a solution. So we have what we call a H-class filter that we can fit into this machine. So this machine's targeted for welders, but by simply changing the filter system, we can now deal with silica as well, because silica is a very, very, very nasty product. You definitely do not want in your lung. So now that machine has 2 solutions. And I might mention to people too that might be listening is that what we have is not the end of the story. We've found that we're doing quite a lot of bespoke things for customers with specific requirements. So if somebody has a specific requirement, we can, with our engineering boys, work out what's required to safely provide a solution that will work for them as well.
Yeah, because I know we talked also a lot. Obviously, a lot of the filters and stuff in these machines there's some tray filters and the canister filters themselves.
Yep.
But you were mentioning that you can actually switch out the actual configuration of those filters to meet more demand of a different
absolutely, yeah,
a different use or a different use case.
Yeah, we had a plumber last week, and he wanted a papa suit. So that's basically. Can you grab the respirator from him? Just the whole head thing. Bring it over. Thank you. No, the end. Keep going. Yeah, that one. Bring it over. Yeah. Thank you. So he wanted, when they go into pipes and they do cleaning, they're dealing with cyanide, ammonia, all sorts of things. So he wanted a solution. Now, we have a suit where we have a hose that comes off and it connects to a motor that draws air through filters and it pressure feeds the mask. So, but his requirement was the filters we have at the moment for particle are H13. So he had a different requirement. So what we've got is we've got what's called an ABE and an ABK. So they deal with cyanides and different. They're chemical filters basically, which is what plumbers need when they're dealing with that sort of environment. It's a very, very toxic, very deadly environment. So so we spoke to the manufacturer, and they had a look at the whole thing. And so they can actually make the canisters into any filter configuration we need. So for the customer, we had an active carbon component. We have a H14 component, which is very, very small, fine filtering. And then on the other side, because we can hold two filters in the unit, on the other side, we had there's a different composition to deal with different types of gases as well. So through that mixing of filter technologies, we were able to provide a solution for the customer. So now he can safely work in that environment, because our solution completes 580 AUD and the 3M one's about $3,000. So thanks, honey. So this is basically the suit. So these are the filters. So the customer wears it, it's strapped on, hose comes up and around and then plugs into the front like that. And they wear this. This is on their back. It's self-regulating. So the customer just turns on the unit. So this one should be powered up. So where are we? There. So it's turned on. So you can see it's running. And then we can select different fan speeds. And if the filters become blocked, yep.
So is that a rebreather?
Yeah,
or
exactly. So
it's taken out. It's taken outside air, or is it a rebreather?
It takes outside air and it brings it in through here, through these filters. Okay, and then it's filtered and then it goes through the pump, and then it's pumped into the mask. So we have different mask options. We have a welding mask over there, and we have the hood, and we also have the respirator. So so there's different options there available for the customer, and these are super good. The 3M one here is around $3,000, so $580. He was pretty happy with that. I'm not sure if you can see over there. You can see the welding one, and we've got the hood one sitting over there as well. Yeah. Yeah. So
hey, Sandy.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
My wife, Sandy. So that mixing of technologies, Jason, can achieve a different result. So, and again, we have a close conversation with the customer to understand exactly what they're looking to filter, because we don't want to hear, I'm taking out hydrochloride and some cyanide, and then there's something they've forgotten about. So it's very important that we get all that accurate information, and then we can custom build the filters to suit the application.
Awesome. So we got another question from Steven. What's the lowest decibel of the machines that would suit me? Again, talking about the kind of cigar smoke kind of machine or thing that he uses.
To be honest,
I think the F40 is the lowest.
Yeah, so there's a couple of options. So the F40, which is actually this unit right here, okay, is very, very quiet. Can you see that? Where are we? Bring that back.
There you go.
Very, very quiet. Yep. The other option would be this one here next to it, which is the Defender. The Defenders they're a little bit more money, but they're a bit unique because they use a. Sorry, I'll just put that up for 1 second.
Do I have any Defenders coming? Did you send any of those?
Can't remember. It's been that long. So I've just taken the side cover off, and you can see this one here will take out cigarette smoke. This is an ESP unit as well, so it has an electrostatic plate in here, which I'll just take out. And the beauty with this is that you simply wash this under the tap when it becomes full. Okay, and this will take everything out. So it's like our big machines, but this is specifically for doing a room. Okay, so we have UV filtration as well as the electrostatic as well as HEPA.
Nope, I lost you. That looks like we lost him. Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me? Or is it me that's out? I think we lost him.
There.
I don't know if you can hear me, Gary, but I think we lost you. You're kind of in and out. Anyways, yeah, there you went. All right, so yeah, he's talking about the Defender. It's more of a more of a room scrubber. I don't know if we have any of them coming on our first shipment, but it is something that we were looking into, and yeah, Steve, I don't know. I'm assuming you're in the U.S. If you're in the U.S., then you would check us out at AppleAirUSA.com, and we'll be bringing in more stuff as time goes on. But as of right now, we're just bringing in the actual laser stuff. But yeah, the Defender he's talking about is more a room scrubber or a room filter, which would be more suited for that kind of environment where you're trying to remove cigarette smoke or even like incense, things like that, where they have a really heavy, dark soot and smoke that come off of them. Looks like he's back now,
Yeah,
so we'll get him back in here.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of briefly touched on it. You were talking about the E-stat part of that and how it was mainly a room filter or a
yes,
more for room itself. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that. We didn't get to hear you if you talked about it for the decibel levels, but I think that's the one that's in the 30s or 40s, right?
Lower than that. Do you want to turn the switch on, honey? I'll turn it on.
Lower than that?
Yeah, I'll just turn it on for you so you can hear it. Just the switch.
Okay. Yeah, those there might be something that we look at getting into.
Behind you on the wall. Okay, so the it has a variable speed control. So if I turn that up high, We'll hear the fan spin up. So the fan's spinning up.
Yeah, I'd say it's.
So I can barely hear that.
I mean, on high, it sounds like it's. Let's say on high, it sounds like it's up there pretty good, probably 40s, maybe 50s.
Yeah.
On
high, I think it's
low, I can't.
Around 50 dB. But we can turn that right down low because it's actually a DC variable fan, so we can control it. AC you can't. And that's running on low, and I can barely hear that.
Yeah.
That'd be around 20 dB at the moment. So it's pretty small. Yeah, I'll just.
And that's something. If you haven't tested, I plan on doing when we.
That's what it's set, Okay. So you can see the fans running. And I don't know about you, but all I can do is the air conditioner. It's super, super quiet.
That's just a squirrel cage, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So for something quiet, the Defender is really good. Yeah, and because it's washable plate, so these filters will go around 5 years before you need to change them out. And the E-Stat plate does all the heavy lifting, and you take it out and you rinse it under the tap. These ones you don't need to soak like the big ones, and they just wash.
That's one of the best things I think about the filters is the E-Stats, because I mean I don't know of any other company that's doing that. And the fact that they capture probably 60 to 70% of all the contaminants, or heavy contaminants anyways. You know, that definitely helps with the filter life of everything beyond it. So
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And it's really the heart and soul of the technology is it's the ESP system, and because it just works so well, and it allows for high volume, low pressure drop. I mean, Freedom 1000, we're running around 9 meters of air per second, so we can still do a really big cabinet, even though we've got like masses of filtration built in there, and the ESP is a big part of that because we're relying on the static charge of the component particle to be attracted to the side plate as it goes through. So we're not putting anything in there to create a pressure drop situation. And the other filters we have are there to deal with the gases, because E-Stat doesn't deal with the gases, of course. And that's the beauty of the system. But the problem is that there's very little money to be made in the filter side post-sale, and that's why most manufacturers, suppliers of machines don't sell it. The customer in Adelaide who's spending $30,000 a year with a competitor's company on filters, and now he's spending well under $2,000 a year, down from $30,000 a year. So we approached that dealer in Australia, and they'd heard of us and they knew what we were doing, and but they won't come to us because they're going to give up. I mean, that's just one customer. And they've been around a long time, so they've got a lot of customers. There's a lot of income coming in from filters because that's how they make the money. For us, that's not our journey. That's not what we're about. So we don't look for that. If we did, we'd sell like everybody else, but that's not for us. We just really genuinely like in that commercial space. As I know you do as well, Jason. It's so important for people's health. It really is.
It is. I mean, and the older I get, and the more I do this, I guess the wiser I get when it comes to that stuff, because I mean, it's, who knows? I got health issues. Who knows if any of that has to do with what I've been doing for the past 8 to 10 years? I don't know. maybe, maybe not. But
Mm.
it's one of those things like even wearing glasses when you're running a laser. Do you
Mm.
have to? No. Are you going to pay for it in the long run? Absolutely. To what degree? Nobody knows. But it's not worth it because
No,
your
it's
health
a, it's
and
a
your eyesight and
preventable.
everything else involved is way more important than
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
that. So
And especially, I always say to people, what we breathe, what we drink, and what we eat is what we put into our body. We can control what we eat. We can control what we drink. Just put a filter on your drinking water tap. You can buy filtered water. But it's what you breathe that's the one that you've really got to be mindful of. And if you're out in the woods, enjoying a walk or whatever, great, no problem. But it's when you generate a pollutant within a machine that that's the unknown, and it's so inexpensive in the big scheme. I when I was selling lasers, I'd sell a laser for 40,000 Australian dollars, and they wouldn't spend money for a filter on it. But you spent money on that, and then they go, "So I'm getting their $50,000 ute and drive away." It's health seems to be back of mind for a lot of people because it'll never happen to me. I'll never get sick until you're sick, and then my friend that passed that put me on this path. He was in his 50s, young family. Just so it can happen to anyone. It really can happen to anyone. So,
absolutely.
and I always say to people, Jason, and I'm not trying to detract from your sales, but I always say to people, if you don't buy from me, that's fine. But buy something, do something to protect your health, because that's what matters at the end of the day. Oh, am I still on? Oh, there you are.
Got completely garbled. What was?
Jason.
Yeah. No, it just got garbled. I didn't hear anything. I don't know if it's my
So,
internet or yours or what, but
it's a long way between us, so who
you
knows?
said not to take away from your sales, but what?
Yeah, I always say to people, Jason, when I'm talking to them, if you don't buy from me, that's okay, but buy something. If it's from a competitor or whatever you do, it's okay, but just do something because it
Yeah, I
is
mean, and I think
so
that's why
important.
that's why we approach this the way we do, is because neither of us. I mean, yeah, money's nice, of course it is, but um, just like with my rotaries and anything else, the money is not an important thing to me. Um, it's it's helping people, building relationships, and just trying to do what's right to help people out. So and that's why I'm glad, obviously, that we're partnered in this, and that we're being, or I'm the U.S. distributor for the product, because I want to take this ride with you. I want to kind of help to create and move the brand forward, and that's hence the reason why when we talked, I chose to keep the same name, because I don't want to change your brand. I don't want to change. I want to expand the brand. I want to
Thank you, Jason.
get it out there as much as I can. And if I change the brand and just put my brand on it, it's not doing anything for AppleAir as a whole. So, um, we're both in it for the same reasons, and
Definitely.
money's not the driving force for either of us. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Jason, I couldn't think of anything worse than a child growing up without a parent because the parent developed some disease that was preventable. That I just could not imagine
yep.
anything worse. So, and there's more and more lasers coming out there. People are processing more and more materials, and it's just so important that people do something about it. And when we talk to people and then we educate them how important that is, they do something. And like I said, don't buy my machine. It's okay because I'm not going to live and die by it, but do something because it's the family at the end of the day that is the root of why you do everything that you do. So you looking after yourself is also looking after them. It's very important.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we've been on here for quite some time. I definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom, because I'm new to this. This is not my forte. Obviously, I'm learning as I'm going and everything. So thank you for coming on and trying to get a little bit more technical and answer a little bit more questions. So if anybody, we're going to be on here for a couple more minutes while we wrap up. If anybody has any questions right now, please feel free to go ahead and ask them. We can address them before we get out of here. But yeah, so some exciting things that we're going to be doing. You're going to be coming up here in July, and
we'll looking forward to that.
So that'll be pretty interesting. That'll be pretty interesting. That'll be the first, not really a trade show, but the first introduction to the laser market, besides, word of mouth and of course the websites and things like that. But and then we have some plans for some other trade shows next year as well, which I'm looking forward to. And hopefully we can just keep product coming and not have as many hiccups as we had this time with production and shipping and everything else.
Yeah, so we'll get on top of it.
But yeah, if anybody's interested, check out AppleAirUSA.com on Facebook as well. If you're in Australia, check out Gary's at AppleAir or AppleAir. Let's see. Sorry.
AppleAir.com.au.
Yep. Tico has a question real quick. There are lasers inside houses and bedrooms. Something like this is awesome addition to Mark. Okay, so it's not a question but a comment. But yeah, absolutely. And that's when Gary. I don't remember if Gary asked me or I demanded to be the U.S. distributor. Once I got down there and actually got to see the product, that was it. And the trip wasn't even about that. It was just to hang out with them because we've known each other for quite some time, and it was really just to hang out, and that was kind of a bonus. But once I saw the stuff, I knew I wanted to bring it on. And like you said with the Freedom series, the Signature series in particular, places where kids and people live, and coming up with that, and we're improving on that. Well, we should have some more stuff coming next year at some point. The details on that will be in the future, but we're definitely looking at ways to improve the equipment that we have. Obviously, primarily Gary's input, but so we're constantly improving. We have some cool stuff that's going to be coming out next year. Not to take away from anything that we have now. It's just obviously we're wanting to advance and kind of push the envelope with the filter technology and stuff. So yeah, that was the main driving force for me to get into this, was the closed quarters, things like that, because I had to deal with it myself. I didn't have a better solution. So to have something like that back then would have been, just life-changing as far as, lessen electric bill, comfort and things like that within the workspace. Yeah. I mean, just so many things. So thanks, Gary, for letting me be part of that. And obviously it's doing good for you down there. Once you get them up here, hopefully we'll have the same kind of luck with
absolutely. That. One, like Tika Laser mentioned about lasers inside of house and bedrooms, but another one that has been quite popular is retail shopping centers, because we've sold a couple of Freedoms to new customers where they've got, one customer's got a charity shop one side and a veterinary on the other side, and they can't vent outside. And so they needed a solution they could vent back inside. Another customer who I haven't met down in Sydney, she moved from home into a retail setting, and they have zero opportunity to vent outside because all the roofs are interconnected, so she can't even vent out that way. So she installed the Freedom 1000, and I had another lady who was the same scenario. She said, I just need to be able to vent back inside in my shop with zero smell, and what can you do? And we put her into the Freedom. Happy days, 100% happy.
Well, a lot of things here, and I noticed over there you guys have a lot of markets. When we went down to Gold Coast and stuff. I think it was Gold Coast. Yeah.
It was, yeah.
No.
The Friday night market.
Oh. Yeah, it was Gold Maker fairs, things like that. A lot of people were doing these, taking little diode lasers and things to them, which is fine. But you're, again, creating all that in an environment that may or may not be conducive to it, and you got kids and other people walking around that have to breathe that in. So something like the F40D would be perfect for that. It's portable. It's going to get rid of all the particulate and stuff. Maybe not all the smell, but it's going to get rid of the majority of the harmful stuff that you're putting back out in the air. So something to think about with that as well. Because that's really popular over here, is people taking like the X tools and things like that, just little portable units to these events.
You know, on that X tools, Jason, my son goes to a local school here. Alan, you met Alan before, and they had an open day for the school to attract new people to the school. And in their science division upstairs, they had 4 X tool lasers, and they had 4 X tool laser filter systems. And they weren't working, but as soon as you walked in that space, and that would have been 20 meters by 10 meters, I don't know what that is in feet, but it's a big space, you could instantly smell all of the laser particulate. And the lasers, the last time the lasers were run was the day before, and they were using those filters. And I come back to the point I mentioned before, a lot of that cheap stuff, it just does not work. It doesn't do anything. Complete waste of money. It makes you feel good.
Those aren't that cheap. Those are actually not that cheap. That's the one I was comparing to. They're like $600. I mean, they're not cheap.
Wasted $600.
But
and they had 4 of
the
them.
filter replacement cost, holy crap.
Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, that's about a 30 by 60 space. So I mean, that's a decent size. A 30 foot by 60 foot. But yeah, so I mean, that's a decent size space, and to be able to smell that stuff, even in my shop, like we vent directly outside through a big duct and manifold system that pulls from all the different lasers. But even with that going, you still smell it when you walk into the warehouse part of the building. You still smell all that stuff. So it's not, it gets out, and
So what you do now is you'll introduce an FML at the end of the outlet, and that will deal with it coming out. You just have to add the FML onto the end of it. You don't need to change anything that you've done. Just add it onto the end, and that will deal with everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's. I had someone ask me about that too. Is what the best one was? I guess the best one for growth and versatility would probably be the FML, because you can just add a different size fan to it to accommodate the number of units that you're pulling from. So, but it's all personal preference and obviously what they can afford. But with the prices being so similar, I mean, it really boils down to what you're going to do with it. If you're going to vent inside the Signature Series, Freedom 1000 is going to be the best unit for that. And then kind of the way I explain it to people, it kind of goes down from there. As far as all the E-stat units are capturing about the same amount of particulate. I think they're around 95-96%, whereas the Signature Freedom Series is, I think, 99 point something.
997.
So I mean, it's obviously so it's obviously the better choice. It's also the most expensive, but then again, it's going to last you a long time. The filter replacement costs, I think you said, are what, $500 to $1,200 a year, roughly, depending on your usage.
Now, I've actually updated my website. So what I've done, Jason, is on our website we've updated. So every single product has the yearly cost of replacement filters now. It's AUD, of course, but yeah. So we actually put up there because it's important to know what that is before you buy any filter system, or what's it going to cost me to run. It's like when you buy a car, buy a diesel car, buy a petrol car, V8, and a 4-cylinder. They're all got different running costs. Still get you from A to B, but they all have different running costs.
Well, a lot of people here don't do that. They did. Yeah, a lot of people don't think of that. Like me, you buy a sports car or something, but you don't think about how much it costs to replace the tires on it. But it's one of those things. Like you said, we try to keep the costs as low as we can, to make it as feasible for everybody to be able to own and operate one of these effectively and efficiently. And I know you're working hard to improve on the existing designs.
We've got lots of new things happening next year. We've got some new design products. One which I'm designing specifically for like a smaller format application. You and I have touched on it, but I've got some something already in planning. So, and that'll be probably middle of next year we'll release it. Because some people don't have a lot of space, so that's okay. And we've got some new models and new applications coming through as well. So lots of things going on.
Yep. I mean, if anybody is interested in anything, if you want to look at their website and see what they have, eventually it's going to come to the U.S. as the demand grows, or as the availability of the equipment and the demand grows. We'll definitely be trying to head that off. So I think right now, if someone wanted to get, let's say, the Weldmaster, how long are we looking to get it to the U.S. if someone needed one? Because right now I have it available.
The
back order.
Yeah. So the fundamental problem is that in the US, you guys are on 60 hertz and we're on 50 hertz. So we have to have specific motors for the US market. We can deal with voltage through transformers. So the machines need to be, like I've got, in my next container, I've got 12 units coming down in that one. So for the American market, it's a case of, we've got to have them built, and that's 3 weeks to get the container built, and then it's got to get here, be processed, and then shipped off to you. So we still have a lag time, but we're going to work hard on getting a more direct route to get the product to you. So we can reduce that time, hopefully by 6 weeks is what I'm hoping for. So that's the end goal. So but what I'll do.
So I mean, it's safe to say probably like 3 months.
Probably 3 months, 3
to 4 months.
Yeah. But what I'll do, Jason,
we're gonna try to stock. We're gonna try to stock stuff though, but so.
Yeah. And when we look at your buying pattern, because you know your market better than us, when we see you buying like lots of these sorts of things, I'm happy to keep some here for you ready to go. So it's just a transit between me and you. We don't have to wait for it to be built, we don't have to wait for it to be shipped and processed. It'll be sitting here ready for you to go. So once we see sort of, because we've been a bit surprised by we have quite a range, but there's a favour towards some models versus others, and so it's okay, well, we need to get more of that stock. So it's the same for you as well. To circumvent those longer delays, we're happy to look at keeping some of that stock for you as well.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
cool.
I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. We're almost an hour and a half into this.
Again,
Gary,
wow.
Thank you very much for coming on. I do want to get you back on again once we kind of get settled in and get a little bit familiar with the equipment and answer any questions that may arise from
no problem
this. So Yeah, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you. Do you have any last things you would like to say before we get out of here?
No, I think just we had options when we looked at distribution in America, and I think as you and I have discussed, we share common beliefs, and I'd say to people looking at this solution that you're really the right person to buy this sort of product from, because you do care about people, and you have a solid history of good support for people. So I know that customers buying our product, if there's any issue, that you will deal with it, and I think that that's a really good thing. So people can look to you with confidence to be that long-term partner, and I know that you'll take very good care of them.
Absolutely, I'll try my best, anyways.
You're right, and I'm here to help you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and again, thank you for letting me be part of this, and we look forward to growing this together and
We'll enjoy the journey together, mate.
Helping as many people as we can along the way. So,
yeah.
I don't have anything else to say. I want to thank anybody that has watched us through this or is watching this after the fact. Thanks for checking it out. Sorry it's so long, but there's more to go over. This was kind of like just a quick off the cuff idea to have a live. So the next one we have, we'll probably have a little more structure, just like bullet points, hit questions, answers, and that's it, to try to keep it a little more simple. But I just want to introduce Gary. He's been obviously instrumental in getting us to this point and bringing this, or helping me bring this to market in the U.S. for him under the AppleAir brand. So thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for future videos. Check us out, AppleAirUSA.com, or in Australia, AppleAir.com.au, and we'll be happy to help in any way we can. Hope everybody has a good night, and we'll see you in the next video.
Okay. See you guys.
Yeah.